Speaking of day in and day out, not a great weekend for the Cleveland Guardians, Jay. They lost 3 of 4 to the White Sox. They did salvage the series finale. Logan Allen had a very promising outing in the Sunday matinee. But overall, for a team that you thought was playing well, had battled back to beat Detroit in their series finale, had a little momentum heading into the weekend, losing 3 in a row to the White Sox, not a great look.
No, it wasn't a good look. They at worst should have split because of the 3-2 loss. When you get a good pitching performance like they did in that game, and you waste it because you leave the bases loaded, nobody out in the 7th inning, and first and second, nobody out in the 6th inning, and you get a grand total of 0 runs and lose by 1, that one sticks around. So I don't want to start ringing alarm bells. I thought Allen was great yesterday, but I will say this. The loss of Steven Kwan is showing what it's going to do to this team and what they're going to look like long term. They can't find a leadoff guy. They can't. And so they went from the best leadoff guy in baseball, which he is now, to, or at least the American League, to we don't know who's going to be our leadoff guy. And you got Florial. If they tried Florial in the leadoff spot, like he's hitting not his weight.
Nah, Buck.
You know, and so we've got too many guys in this lineup whose batting average begins with a 1. I can't remember who said it. Was it Bull on Friday said that David Fry might be your answer at catcher? Like, I know that everybody says Bo Naylor is the future.
Man, he's been playing terrible
but
at the plate.
David Fry is, like, he's been doing it. And unfortunately, I know Hedge is he's a great chemistry guy, and he's a great defensive catcher. And I wish I could put the skill sets of all 3 of those guys, the youth and the upside of Bo Naylor, and
right.
the bat and the intensity of Fry, and the humor and the locker room value and the defensive effort of Hedges, and blend them into one catcher, you'd have an all-star Hall of Fame catcher. But right now, I think Steven Kwan's absence is really starting to take its toll, and I haven't heard anything on his return. Have you guys seen anything on when he's coming back?
Yep.
They said up to 4 weeks when he got hurt. So it's probably 2 weeks.
I haven't seen an update from that, but that's a long way to play, a long time to play without your leadoff guy.
Would you put Jose in the leadoff spot?
I wouldn't.
Who
I know
would you
they
put there?
That's the problem. I don't know. I would want to say Rocchio, just because. But his bat isn't good enough. I need somebody that gets on base and that can run. They don't have another. They do not have another leadoff guy on this roster. Not that I see.
They are getting to the point where they're starting to regress to the mean, right? You get it?
Sure. They overplayed. They were over their skis the first month, and now they're starting to come back to who they probably are.
And there's a little bit of this. The division is better than what people thought it was.
Much better.
When you see the Royals is 8 games over 500.
Kansas City, Minnesota, Detroit.
Detroit.
The only dog in there is Chicago.
And then you lose 3 to Chicago. So, now, especially those teams, and right now, what is almost 40-some-odd games that they playing? There's a sample size. There's guys out there, Rocchio didn't have a track record at the plate. There's a lot of guys that didn't have really track records playing for the first time. And it seemed like Stephen Vogt, where he was putting and plugging guys in different places and trying, people was making, clutch hits and doing some clutch hitting. But the way baseball work is, they got that tape on you now. Now it's like, okay, if you don't got Kwan, you don't got nobody leading off, being on the base paths, distracting pitchers, getting in people's heads, getting ducks on the pond. Now it's like, where are we getting these runs from? And when you start to see the 3-2s and you leaving guys on base, in terms of, loading the bases, keep leaving those loaded, that's kind of frustrating because you're like, oh, that's that Guardians, man. We don't want to get back to that. But they do have way too many guys in the lineup. And I like Rocchio, but his stick, the numbers is just, it ain't there at the plate right now. And Bo Naylor definitely not there at the plate right now.
And Freeman has really regressed. I mean, we asked a question after the first week, is this sustainable? And we all said
Say
no, because it wasn't. And boy, he hasn't hit at all since then. And that,
Woo!
I mean, so here's the, and it's easy to point out, but Florial doesn't belong in a major league starting lineup. I'm ready to say I don't believe that Freeman belongs in an everyday major league lineup. I also don't think that Laureano, who isn't an everyday starter but gets a lot of at-bats, Laureano is an $8 million anchor right now. He is killing this team because that $8 million, if that could have been spent for somebody in the last 3 years, they've gone out and they've brought these players in and they've paid them. And Zunino was a fat flop, and Bell was a flop, and Laureano has been a flop. And I love the front office, but baseball is about what have you done for us lately. And I'll tell you, I was encouraged over the weekend. Saturday, the Pirates started the guy that was the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft.
Like 7 Ks, didn't he?
He had 7 Ks. He struck out the first 2. They had him on a weird deal. He only pitched 4 innings. He throws 102 miles an hour when he wants to gas it up that high. I mean, most guys, we talked about this Friday, most guys know him because he's dating Livy Dunn.
And I didn't know who she was until you said
Instagram superstar.
Jay was like, just simply said Google her. And him and Bull was in unison when they said Google her.
Yeah.
So when they in unison, I had to go check it out. And I was like.
Now, homie's got the funkiest stash probably in Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah, but he winning.
And,
he must be doing something right.
The Guardians' big call-up so far hasn't done anything, and that's problematic. Manzardo, speaking of funky stashes, really hasn't. Now it's way early, and he was white hot. He had like 8 home runs in a couple of weeks in Columbus, and he just has really not been it yet. I mean, look at those AAA numbers. If he comes close to that kind of production, then there's a guy right there. There's a guy that you get. But they lost 3-2. They left the bases loaded, nobody out in the 7th, and their 2 runs came on solo home runs from Hosey and Naylor, and that was it. And you can't lose that way. You can't do it. So I'm optimistic still. I still believe that they can contend for this division. But I also think that the Twins now have found their game, and the Royals are a shot. I don't think the Royals are as good as their record, but every week I say that, they keep going 4-2, and they keep
winning these series.
That's how you do it. You win the series, and you go 4-2 in the week, and you're going to be in the playoffs at the end of the year.
I kind of feel like you. I'm still optimistic. It's funny. Last month people were saying, it's early when the Guardians was winning. You can't get too high. I'm not finna trip on them losing 3 or 4 to the Chicago White Sox. This thing happened. Hell, we just seen the New York Yankees get swept by the Oakland A's. So, these things happen. That's pretty much that. It happens.
That's baseball. Yeah.
It's baseball.
I like this pitching matchup, too. I know the ERAs are similar, but I think Bybee has the ability to still be that front-of-the-rotation guy. His whip and ERA are too high. They can't be up that high. But, and Allen yesterday, I know they've both kind of been the same way. They have outings where they look great, and then they have outings where they just look like they can't find the strike zone and they can't get their way out of the 4th inning. So, but McKenzie's been good despite a rocky start. So maybe the elbow thing is better, and he is going to be able to pitch throughout the whole season. That's my hope. But man, we need Kwan back, and we need him back tomorrow.
Is this, to me, is this roster? It looked like it's a roster good enough to compete in the AL Central. If they get in the playoffs, anything happens. I think they're just very limited when it comes to playoff success because they don't have the arms in the starting rotation at this moment, and they really don't have what I would call elite bats. So it's like I at least want to go into the playoffs with one. If I can get either my great pitching in the front end and relief pitching, at least give me one of those, right? The only thing I wouldn't care about too much is great defense. Like, give me a team that can either be all good when it comes to pitching or a team that's going to hit home runs. And so it's kind of difficult when you're in the middle, and it's like, we have some good pitching. We hit home runs at spots, but I would like to see more power in the bottom of the lineup, which it was tough to do if you don't, we knew they weren't really built like that. They just didn't have the horses like that.
No, they don't. Definitely don't. Hosey and Naylor, I think, are elite hitters.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, we need one in the bottom of the lineup. Bull is funny. Bull's greedy. Bull says we need to trade for 2 pitchers and a bat.
Well, what?
And I love that idea, but, that's not the MO.
I tried that. I tried that too when I was in 8th grade. I said, "Give me both pair of Jordans and them Adidas over there."
Yeah,
I got punched.
Pick your poison.
I got smacked in the lips.
Let me ask you guys one Guardians question, then we'll talk about the City Connect jerseys. But David Fry continues to hit, and I know he's a utility guy. I know he can catch. He played first. He can play the outfield. He can play third if needed. Are we at the point, Jay, where he has to be in the lineup day in and day out?
I think so. Proven to be one of our best hitters. I don't like it when he's sitting on the bench. I know that. I know he can come off the bench late and pinch hit, but what else do they want him to do? What's his line right now?
Give me one
He
second.
homered again yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, every time he plays, he hits.
I mean, the guy's just a hitter, and they're really at a funny situation because
he's hitting real quick, Jay. He's got hitting 309 in 68 at-bats. He has 21 hits, 3 homers, 12 RBIs. He's walked 14 times. He has an OPS of 951.
This dude ballin'.
Highest on the team. He's the second highest WAR on the team. His on-base percentage, which is why Bull said maybe he could be a leadoff candidate.
I mean, he's the only other guy that could. It's just so
437.
unconventional to put your catcher as the leadoff guy.
Have you ever heard of a leadoff catcher?
I can't remember it.
Yeah, Jason Kendall, Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Who's
the
the best running catcher? Like
Probably Jason Kendall.
In the league right
do you
now,
remember
the
that
dude
leg
on,
break he had, though, going to first base?
I remember that.
Yeah. There's a guy on Oakland, Langoliers.
Yes.
He's a pretty fast catcher right now.
Yeah, but they're rare. They're so very rare. And
Yeah, they're very
you're not
few and
putting
far
him there, I don't think, because of his speed. You're putting him there because he gets on base.
Yeah, like I said, he leads the team. So, Jay, he's only played in 27 games. He has 68 registered at-bats.
Yeah.
He leads the team. Sorry, second behind Naylor with 16 walks.
He's
Naylor
got
has 16,
he's got great plate discipline.
Fry has 14. So, yeah, his on-base percentage is not just kind of the highest on the team.
By a lot.
It's 30 points higher than Kwan, who's
Which
second.
is stunning.
And then Josh Naylor's third. It's 80 points higher than Josh Naylor.
Here's where the Guardians are in a really tricky place right now, and here's why. They're a team that's always about the future. They're never going to be a team loaded with 37-year-olds and has-beens. They're always about who's the next man up. And in Florial, you've got a guy that you have to look and see what you have with this guy. You, in Bo Naylor, it's pretty much a given that he's the next long-term catcher for this club. But is he? And look at shortstop. Arias was the guy. They've already moved on from Arias at shortstop. My God, the error he made, that cost us the game. Friday night. So, I mean, we should have won Friday. We easily could have won 3 of 4, really, if you break it down. So, I don't know. I don't think they've seen enough and are ready to move on from Florial. I've seen enough of Laureano.
Yeah.
Laureano, he's a veteran.
That ain't it.
We know what he is. At $8 million a year,
Not it.
no one's going to pick him up. If they do, you're off the hook for the money. So just release him, and if you have to, you send him to AAA. And I know you've got
Miles Straw
down there, too. You've got some high-priced guys down there in the minor leagues. But if they're hurting, it's the same thing what I said with the Cavs earlier. If you're not putting your best lineup out there because you don't want to hurt Darius Garland's feelings, and so for the Guardians, if you don't want to ding the long-term psyche of Arias and Florial and Bo Naylor, and you're just putting them out there, but it's not your best team, then I don't think you're doing the fans a service. You've got to put your best product out there, particularly when you're going to be involved in a divisional race that's going to be really tight. The difference between playoffs and not might be one game. One game. And David Fry, to your question, needs to be in the starting lineup because he's proven to be not just one of the best 9 hitters on this team, he's probably in the best 4 or 5 hitters on this team.
You know what, Jay? It's kind of crazy, man. Listen, we talk about home improvements, man. If you make the call to get some home improvements and the roof guy come over and that's bad, and then the siding guy come over and that's bad, then you got a basement dude that came over and that's bad. Pretty soon you're gonna be at that budget meeting like, hey man, what's going on with your decision making, dog? Like, do I need to call the plumber? Cause the last time you called the basement guy, they got a lot of guys in AAA making money, and when you are a team that every penny counts, it looks crazy if you got all these guys that you've been missing on, and basically you paying them to go away.
Well, think of it. If they do release Laureano and he clears waivers and they send him to the minors, you would have $12 million in salary on 2 guys. What would that $12 million have looked like in an offseason acquisition to help bolster this team's chances to win the division? Now, I know you can't hit on everybody. It's impossible. And we have to give them credit on the Manzardo trade. I killed them at the time for it. I was dead wrong. And I apologized last week for that. Manzardo trade for Aaron Savali looks like we robbed them at gunpoint. I mean, but he's got to start doing it at the major league level. I mean,
but it's kind of like they got to do that. It's kind of like, okay, like I see what they're doing. They're looking at the bargain bin, and sometimes it's a little higher price. You're like, I don't want to do it secondhand at that rate, but they got to do it. You know what I'm saying? Or pony up and pay 12 for a guy that's going to be a real dude, and there's a less chance that he's going to bust. Yeah. But that's not really their style.
And definitely the hay is not in the barn on Manzardo. I'm not saying he's definitely going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
But based on what he was doing at AAA this year, and I know that doesn't mean anything, but he's got the ability to be a star. He's just got to figure out big league hitting, get over the jitters, and start doing what you were doing in minor league baseball. And if he can do that, then yeah, we did fleece Tampa Bay on the Savali trade.
Maybe